One of the most crippling feelings I believe a human can experience is loneliness, the feeling of being unsatisfied with one's social situation, specifically if they feel like they aren't connected enough to people around them. I personally have felt loneliness several times in my life, much like many other people. One of the first times I experienced it was when I watched people play the game Presentable Liberty, developed by Robert Brock, also known by his username Wordpool. Despite the game being fictitious, I felt lonely when I watched the indie title. Now looking back, especially in the wake of a lonely epidemic due to COVID-19, I wondered why that game had the power to put me and many others into that place, into loneliness. I'd like to start off by providing a summary of the game. If you haven't played it, I'm going to discuss spoilers, so just know you have been warned. I recommend you go play it right now. It is a free game and has had an incredible impact on many people's lives. Spoilers aside, Presentable Liberty is a game where the player is trapped in a prison cell and is given letters by multiple people around the prison describing the situation outside. The world is being hit by a deadly disease, and you're one of the only healthy people left. You experience several people's thoughts as they struggle through the harsh world. Besides reading letters, you get little mini games to play to pass the time, and some other gifts to feel more connected. Dr. Money, a character that you find to be the one who locked you up in the first place, is holding a monopoly on the cure to the disease, and is using people's suffering to make a profit. You can tell the game offers a very uplifting story. The player speaks with 4 characters throughout the game. Dr. Money, Mr. Smiley, a character designed to keep the player happy at all costs in the cell, Salvadore, the player's best friend before being locked up, and Charlotte, a girl who works at a bakery down the street who tries to seek friends in the virus-driven world. One may clearly see how this game would bring a feeling of loneliness, but I'd like to go into the nitty-gritty of how this game crafts its environment and situations to invoke the feeling of isolation. Let's start off with the obvious that is introduced the second the player launches the game, the environment. The player is in an extremely small cell, with only a small gated window that peeps into the corridor the cell is connected to. The place is built like a prison, so things aren't homey. The walls, floor, and ceiling are a dull gray color. Loose wires can be seen on the side of the door, making the place look run down. Eventually the player receives many posters from people outside, and all the posters give an eerie feeling that makes the place feel even more unsafe. The whole style of Presentable Liberty also helps create that gross environment. The blocky look and simple textures may have only been selected since it is easy and cheap to create as an indie developer, but it makes things seem less friendly. The simple textures make the game less appealing to look at, and the blocky look, especially the sharp edges on the bed for example, make it feel like everything is rough and rigid. A kind of non-professional psychological analysis of the environment would indicate cabin fever from the cell, a distressing irritability felt from being confined in a small space for an extended period of time. I doubt all the environmental factors I've listed help that condition. On top of that, the player has almost no control of their environment. The player can't even lie on the hard bed. All they can do is interact with things brought under the cell door, which isn't much. It includes the letters. An important note as well is although your character is getting all these letters, you can't send any back. The sort of Game Boy device that is given to the player to keep them entertained, and 5 confetti poppers. Not much at all. On a more macro level, the situations outside make it feel like if one would escape the cell, they wouldn't come out to a joyous free world. Instead, they would come out to a world of disease and people who attempt to monetize human lives. Charlotte recalls seeing people choke on their own blood outside her pastry windows. Salvadore and Charlotte both say the town is a ghost town. It makes it seem almost not even worth it to come out. But for me at least, the fact that there were people I was getting letters from in the first place that were still alive gave me hope. There are many events in the game that try to restore that sense of connection and hope so the player doesn't just give up. First off, as I mentioned, the many posters given to you remind you that the letters you are getting are from people that actually care about you. Well, at least most are from people that actually care about you. The first very significant moment of connection is when Salvadore tells you of the table he is making for you while on his travels. Throughout the game, small parts of the table are sent to you to remind you that Salvadore is spending so much time and hard work just for you. On the table, you eventually receive a cake from Charlotte that she makes for you as she waits for you to make it out and come see her. You can sense the same desperation you have from being lonely through Charlotte. She makes you the cake to try to make you seem more real to her, despite no actual proof to her that you are real because of the physical isolation. Without a doubt, the most impactful moment of connection the player is given in the game is when Charlotte decides to play the music on an old gramophone she finds in her basement. She wonders if you'll be able to hear it, but without knowing, plays it anyway. The second the music starts, a sense of joy fills the player. This is the first time the ambient sound of metal clinking, Presentable Liberty, plays throughout the whole game is interrupted. The French-style music brings a sense of love and contentment. This is the first time you really feel like the people you are getting letters from, especially Charlotte, might actually be real. The music sounds so close that you begin to realize how close Charlotte is. She seems right beyond the prison walls. You wonder if you ever get out to find out how close she really was. The whole music part is sweet and sour, the sweetness being the awakening of a sense of connection, and the sour being the fact that she doesn't know if you even exist. She continues to wonder if you ever even heard the music, and if there was anyone to even hear it. You wish you could tell her that you heard it, and you loved it, but you can't. You are stuck in your cell. This one event makes the player feel even more loneliness, despite how nice it is. The player feels greatly connected for once, but the one who the player is connected to doesn't feel the connection back. It is one-sided. Now the player feels truly unwanted. Before you realize that this girl believed that you were real, despite being separated, but now she questions why she believed that, despite you now feeling connected. One of the best moments in the entire game is a double-edged sword. Now we arrive at the end of Presentable Liberty, the place that loneliness is put into the forefront of everything that the player experiences. You and Charlotte clearly felt loneliness throughout the whole game, and now you'll find out how both of you deal with it. The two other characters that you build a connection with, Salvadore and Mr. Smiley, even if it is a small connection, now unveil their masks to reveal their loneliness as well. Let's start off with Mr. Smiley, who I've barely talked about this whole video. He is meant to keep you happy in your cell. He does everything he can to keep you happy. Dr. Money, the guy said is keeping you in the cell and creating a monopoly on the cure for the deadly disease, told Mr. Smiley that he has to keep the character happy at all costs. It is clear right off the bat that he is desperate for you to be happy. It doesn't feel genuine. You find out near the end of the game that Dr. Money kidnapped Mr. Smiley's daughters and told Mr. Smiley that his daughters would live if he kept your character happy. This puts into perspective why Mr. Smiley was so desperate to keep you happy. While I think Mr. Smiley mainly wants to make sure his daughters live, I think a part of Mr. Smiley misses his daughters, which could be considered a type of loneliness. So, Mr. Smiley is partially led to do his actions by loneliness. After revealing that his daughters were kidnapped, he explains that at the point of telling you that, his daughters died of the virus 2 days ago and no one ever told him. He expresses his sadness and then tells you that he wishes for you to keep pushing. He wishes for you not to give up despite how hard the situation may be. He decides to donate all of his organs to help fund a final game on your Game Boy for you. He wants you to keep going because after his daughters die, he no longer can. His sadness for his daughters not living on and his own loneliness gets to him and makes him sacrifice himself. Salvadore, the character you've been friends with before the game even started, doesn't express any sort of loneliness throughout the game, but upon further inspection, it is clear he is led by it too. He is the first person to send you a letter in the game, since he wants to hold communication with you while you are locked away. Since he knew you before the game started, the player already has an established relationship with him. He spends his letters discussing the travels and the unknown he is experiencing. After being out exploring the whole game, he, near the end, comes back to the city you are in. He reminds you that he has no family to come home to, but when he arrives home, he is greeted with all the things you've been hearing about. He didn't know of the virus and the deaths, so he comes into town surprised by how alone he feels in it. He instantly wants to see the player, so he makes his way to the prison. He talks about hoping you are still alive and being afraid of the idea that you aren't, since everyone else in town is dead. He gets to the prison and all the doors are locked. Without much hesitation, you get a letter that he's breaking in and is going to try to take out the electricity to free you. I wondered why he is so frantic to get you out. Why did he break in? Seems kind of a crazy plan, especially since it was a prison he was dealing with. It could have been since he thought everyone was dead anyway, he decided to break in, but I came to the conclusion that I think makes more sense. The only friend Salvadore has had the whole game is you. All his travels he went on alone. He talks about having no family to go back to, and feels really alone in the empty city. He is being hit with loneliness throughout the game. You are the only one who makes him feel connected, even if you can't message back. That's why he spends his time traveling. He wants to distract himself from his loneliness. That's why he makes you a table, to feel connected to you. At the peak of his feeling of loneliness, he is frantic to see you, so he breaks into the prison. He doesn't even think twice. He needs to see you. 1, to free you, and 2, to fight his own loneliness. Everyone besides Dr. Money is fighting loneliness in this game, but the two most obvious are the main character and Charlotte, so now is the time to find out how they deal with their loneliness in the end. In the day before the final day of the game, Charlotte talks about how lonely she feels after the song she plays, but then she says 3 words that worry the player. 1 more day. She tells you you must come to see her before tomorrow evening. She says if you are too late, she fears the world is no place for her anymore, because that will mean you aren't real or you are dead. She will be utterly alone. This makes the last day a race against time. Salvadore is going to free you, but he must be fast enough to get you out so Charlotte lives. If Sal takes too long, Charlotte will kill herself out of loneliness. The game makes the player feel the most emotion when you don't get a single letter from Charlotte all day that day. Sal tells you he's about to shut off the power and free you, and then you see a letter from Charlotte come under the door. It reads, "Are you coming?" You want to tell her, "Yes, please. Don't do it. I'm almost out. Please, don't do it. Don't kill yourself. I'm about to see you." Another letter comes. "Please tell me that you'll come." Moments pass. "Sal, hurry up. Hurry up." Another letter. "I am so lonely." "I know, Charlotte. I know. You won't be soon. Please just hold out a little longer." Another letter. "I'm sorry, friend." Your stomach drops. "No, please. I'll be there any second now. Please. I'm so close. I'm about to see you." You see one more letter go under that door. You open it and are met with only 2 words. "I'm sorry." Blood stains the letter. You go cold. You weren't fast enough. Minutes later, Sal shuts off the power. You were mere minutes late. Loneliness was strong enough for Charlotte to make her decision regarding her life. She couldn't handle it anymore, and now it is time for you to decide your fate. Dr. Money tells you that Sal's attempt to free you got him electrocuted, and now he is dead. He tells you that the world is terrible out there, so why even leave your cell? He wants you to stay in the cell and accept loneliness. Words pop up on your screen. Press space to open the door, with a timer. Assuming that you believe what Dr. Money is telling you, that Sal is really dead, you are faced with the same questions Charlotte faced the day before. Keep pushing or give up. If you stay in the cell or give up, you find out that you are immune to the disease the whole time, and your organs are sold days later, killing you. You decided that there was no hope left for you. You let your loneliness win. If you leave the cell, you escape. You don't ever find out if Sal lived or died, but you come face to face with the bakery Charlotte was working at. You realize how close it was, why you could hear the music so clearly, and you are reminded how close you were to saving Charlotte. You walk into the bakery and read Charlotte's final letter, which details her last thoughts. She tells you how much she's proud of you for escaping and coming here. She tells you how you may think this is a bad ending, but you are in her bakery, so it isn't bad. You made it out. In regards to this video essay, it means you survived your loneliness. You kept pushing, believing that there was someone out there for you that cared about you. You followed in Sal's footsteps, fighting for a social connection that may have not even been existent anymore. You showed Charlotte that her efforts to make connections to you weren't in vain. You won against loneliness, the only thing that was ever truly stopping you the whole game. I said this game put me and many others into loneliness, and I agree with that, but in the end, the game wasn't just about loneliness and what it does to you. Presentable Liberty is about beating loneliness. It is about believing others care about you even if they aren't around. It is about pushing through times we are forced to be alone and feel truly alone. It is about fighting to feel connected in a disconnected world. Something we all need to do right now. Thanks for watching my video. If you enjoyed this video and want to support me, consider sharing, liking, and subscribing. I'd really appreciate it. What are your thoughts on loneliness? Put that in the comments below. And also, tell me if you think my analysis of this game was fruitful, or if you think that none of the characters in the game besides your character ever existed in the first place, which is definitely a possibility. We will never truly know. Anyways, thanks for watching.